Hello and welcome to Some Assembly Required. My name is Stephen Olsen. I'm your host. This is the podcast put together by the Skeptic events team to help group organizers troubleshoot problems and to help inspire people to start groups if they've been thinking about it and just don't know what to do about that. With me today is Josh McGraw. He's the author of Why I Reject the Faith of My Father. And he is iconoclastic in the sense that he's the first guest on the show who is not actually a group organizer.
This is true.
And we got Jeff Van Booven with the Springfield Freethinkers and the Freethinkers and Skeptics of Missouri State University, formerly known as the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. And Brandi Braschler, did I pronounce that right? She is the president of the Freethinkers of FSU, the SSA for FSU, and she's with the Tallahassee Atheists, and she's on the board of the Humanists of Florida Association.
And she disappeared.
And she just disappeared.
That is not how you get women to be part of the movement.
She said, I do not like that introduction, goodbye.
That sounds about right. Well, anyways, for those of you, listening to this in audio, trust me, Brandi was here. Maybe she'll come back. Anyways,
I won't vouch for Stephen.
Yes, so the topic today is how to make your group more welcoming to women and to make it feel more like a safe space. We've been seeing people talk about Atheism Plus in the blogosphere, and for the past 2 years, we've seen people talking about the impact of sexual harassment at conferences and in local groups. And this is something that, whenever I was the president of the Springfield Freethinkers, I actually had trouble with, because you don't want to be in conflict with other people, but at the same time, you have to be in conflict when somebody's being a complete jerk. And my personality is more geared towards the be a diplomat, be nice to everybody, and sometimes you can't do that. So this is actually kind of a difficult thing from the group organizer perspective. It's simple enough to just say, kick the bastards out, but it does get a little bit tricky when you're trying to implement that.
There are always going to be some people that you absolutely cannot reach. But I do agree. I do like to be nicer to everyone. I don't like to just say, hey, get out of here. Like, you're stupid. Don't like to do that. Are you waving?
Yes, that's where I suggest waving to people.
Do you
sorry, I
want
was
to hug the
messing
camera
around
again?
with my... What?
Do you want to hug the camera?
Yeah, this. Lots of hugging. Hugs. Actually, that might be the wrong answer. That might creep some people out. Ask permission before you hug.
You could be the Dave Matthews guy with the free hug shirt on.
Yeah.
And you could
Let
go
them
around
approach you.
Make that a group and start promoting atheism that way.
Yeah, atheist hugs.
Well, actually, that was kind of an interesting subject, because we talked about that with Ben Blanchard and Sarah Maddox, and that was actually a subject they had a little bit of difficulty with, because he was a hugger, and he made people a little uncomfortable with boundaries, and I can completely relate to that, because I'm a hugger myself, and left to my own devices, I want to hug everybody, but sometimes even someone who's well-meaning like that, you need to be able to step back and say, hey, you might be making people uncomfortable. And that can be difficult, because you don't want to, impede social functions, but at the same time, you don't want to, not everybody's going to speak up when they're uncomfortable. So you kind of got to keep an eye out and see, hey, is this person, creeping people out or what? And, maybe step in if you're getting that kind of impression.
I'm good with a fist bump. I'll follow President Obama. I'll just give him a fist bump. Right there.
Yeah. We might be terrorists, but fist bumps.
Really weird how that terrorist thing just stuck.
Yeah.
That sounds like the name of a band. We might be terrorists.
But we're not quite sure.
Is that the radicalized?
We're not sure. We're just outside doing stuff.
Yes, this is the radicalized Islam version of They Might Be Giants.
The sun is in the sky, and it goes around us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their actual doctrine is on.
No.
Actually, probably got it right. They were pretty up to date on those sorts of things.
I can't say that I actually know on that.
Oh, she's back.
Brandi's back.
Stop making up lies.
Now we can proceed.
Yes, so going back to the introductions. Brandi, I just told everybody what you do and probably butchered the pronunciation of your last name. Hello?
I think she's frozen in time. We need our time traveler to go get her.
Okay, let me get my screwdriver. I'll be right back.
Do you really have one? He can't hear me now. Oh, she's back. She didn't need you.
Hello.
Hey, Brandi.
There she is.
Yeah, my internet
Oh God, he does have one.
Nice. I have one too.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So, yeah, I was just introducing everybody, and I was in the middle of introducing you when you got kicked off the chat.
Yeah, that would be my internet connection. It's great.
So we were just.
Your keyboard is assaultive.
Sorry, I forgot.
Sorry. But basically, just to get you up to date with the conversation, we were just talking about personal boundaries and how sometimes it might be a little difficult to, make sure that everybody's following, other boundaries that are being set, because not everybody's comfortable saying, "Hey, don't hug me. I'm not comfortable with hugs." And you'll get people who, end up crossing those boundaries without necessarily realizing that they're causing a problem.
Well, while we're starting on people who don't like hugs, I'm actually one of those people.
There you go.
When people hug me. I usually tell them, but sometimes it's just, I don't. And it's okay most of the time, but if I tell you that I don't like hugs and you hug me anyway, that's when it's not okay.
The mace comes out.
Mostly just the yelling.
Oh, okay.
You can yell pretty loud.
I am definitely a hugger, but I've tried to put myself into the habit of asking if somebody wants a hug. Just because, what's the worst that can happen is they can say, why did you bother asking?
I don't know, they could go straight to the mace, and that would be worse.
Now, as atheists, I'm curious, where do you draw the boundaries as far as bringing up religious topics with other people?
That can be a tricky situation depending on the crowd that you're in. If you're have a mixed crowd, like the Springfield Freethinkers was a combination of skeptics and atheists, and not all of them were in both sides of the Venn diagram. So we would have people who would come in who believed in astrology, or we had one person who was a Christian who came in and she considered herself a freethinker. That's a tricky thing to do because you don't want to be unwelcoming to people, but at the same time, the whole point of these groups, one of the points, is to have a safe space where people can feel comfortable, speaking freely about these subjects without feeling like they're going to get fired or, piss off their in-laws. So I kind of feel like, in a way, like if you, come to a Freethought group as a religious person or as somebody who believes in homeopathy, I feel like you should be willing to embrace a little bit of conflict. Obviously, there's some nuance to that, but I think if everybody's respectful and doesn't use ad hominems, you can still end up having a decent exchange.
Yeah, as long as nobody drinks a lot of water while you're talking about homeopathy, you should be doing pretty okay.
My group tends to be pretty mixed at my university, Freethinkers FSU. Although it's mostly atheists, but there have been a few people who come in and are more accommodationist than a lot of people in the group than me when it comes to religion. And I think it's important to not try to jump to conclusions when you hear someone say something, to try to stay calm and ask follow-up questions rather than just getting angry and assuming that they meant something.
Is it an issue to stay calm?
For me, always.
See, I find that anger is not so much a problem anymore. It was within the first year of coming out atheist when people would challenge and I didn't really know all of the answers, which is, I suspect, why I got angry when I was a believer and people would challenge my beliefs, is because there's really no answers there. But, you know, after having passed that time period now, I don't get angry. I look for calm, rational explanations for the person. I don't have that welling of emotion anymore.
Yeah, I either get angry or someone just does or says something that's so stupid it's beyond anger, and I just laugh at it.
Todd Aiken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Todd Aiken.
Todd Aiken. God, I'm from the district that kept electing him representative over and over again, so I've met all the wonderful people who vote for him. Yeah. They're the ones who get Missouri's World's Worst Awards from Keith Olbermann.
Yeah, I have to say I definitely love the asking questions calmly and politely, because asking questions is one of the best ways. If you're asking like genuine, honest questions, not just snarky questions, that can, you know, help someone actually realize why there might be a flaw in their reasoning. Whereas if you just say, you know, homeopathy's stupid, that doesn't necessarily get through to them in the same way that. So how do you think the dilution really works on a molecular level? That might actually get through to them, or at least, you know, make for a better discussion.
I do agree with that. And this past weekend, I actually met with some Mormons, and I wanted to speak to them and just talk, just discuss matters. And when you do that, they might see on their own, as they're answering your questions, maybe about other faiths, why their own might not be so rock steady as they think. But if you come out and you say, oh, you're an idiot, you're stupid, then automatically they're on the defensive and they're defending their position and they're not going to listen to you.
I think part of it, too, is, at least in kind of what I study for my degree, is with identity, if you challenge their identity, they're much more likely to resist you than if you try to keep it away from them being as Mormons and more of, this is this little idea that has nothing to really do with your identity as a human being and who you see yourself as, and more with, you can still be a Mormon, but you should consider this little option right here. Now, with religion, it's a little bit more complicated because a lot of the things have to do exactly tie in with, if you don't believe this, you aren't that religion. But, you know, if you attack who they are as a person and who they see themselves as, then they're going to be at defensive.
I do have to say, though, I think that the that usually works, but however, if you are in a situation where the person you're talking to is not the person you're trying to convince, then it doesn't necessarily help you to not call them stupid.
Like a crazy street preacher, maybe?
Well, for example, if you're talking about, like, let's say you're debating William Lane Craig, and William Lane Craig is not somebody that you're going to convince. He's not particularly honest. He's already heavily invested in the ideology. However, somebody watching you, who's on the fence, if they see your use of mockery and just blatantly calling them out, they can actually be persuaded by that. So I definitely think it depends on the circumstances. One-on-one conversations, it's always better to avoid ad hominems and just have a one-on-one dialogue that's on equal level playing field.
And you're talking about a debate scenario in which I would agree with you, sort of addressing the audience via humor, perhaps. But I was talking about addressing a single individual that you're trying to make a connection with.
This is actually kind of way off topic, though. But so, Josh, you actually mentioned at the start of this that you hadn't kept up with the Atheism Plus discussions.
No, I haven't. I'd heard rumors about it when it, I guess, first became news, but I'd been otherwise preoccupied for the past couple months, so I hadn't really heard about it. So if you want to explain what it is.
Yeah, I'll just go briefly, like, you know, as like one or two sentences. Basically, all the people who declare dictionary atheism, it only means the lack of belief in God, which is true. That's what atheism means. But people who didn't want to, they wanted to associate themselves with atheism, but they didn't want to just be that, I isolationist, I guess, and wanted to focus on social justice issues and equality, and they see those as tied to atheism. Like, for example, if you believe that religious bigotry is one of the reasons why we have problems with gender equality, then you might be an atheism plus. Does that make sense? Like atheism plus these other things.
I suppose. I don't see how it's directly tied. I mean, I see how maybe having religious beliefs could impose some other bad beliefs upon a person, but you don't necessarily. Go ahead. What were you?
If you look at the huge problems in American society right now, these big social issues, who's the side pushing the bigotry?
Well, obviously the religious right.
Exactly.
But
so atheism,
you can still
I see it as...
You can still be religious and not buy into the bullshit.
You could be, but you're still propping up a religious institution. Say you're a moderate Catholic or you're a understanding Mormon, you're still propping up a religious institution that tries to deny people rights.
Right. No, but atheism, I would say, is just the lack of belief in a God. Anything other than that
is atheism plus.
Right.
Exactly.
But you can also be religious and still support those things. You're just ignoring the rest of your doctrine.
It's true. If you like being a contradiction.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, but the whole point was that there were all these other social justice justice movements that are tied to religious organizations and stuff like secular humanism, and there's a few other ones out there, but they're not necessarily atheistic. And a lot of people wanted to make sure they made that very clear up front. An example of kind of what I'm thinking of is Beth Presswood started a Woo-Free cystic fibrosis group on Facebook, and it really isn't that there aren't other cystic fibrosis groups, or that being woo-free necessarily means that you research cystic fibrosis. She just wanted to make sure that she got those two things in together, because there was a lot of woo in all the other cystic fibrosis groups that she checked out. Do you see what I mean? It's like, it's mostly just about, we want to make sure we focus on this as well as promoting reason. So, speaking of promoting social justice and atheism, Brandi, could you tell those who don't know about it a little bit about Secular Woman?
Okay, so Secular Woman is a new national organization for women who don't believe in the supernatural, basically. What we're trying to do is amplify the voice of women within the secular movement and secular women throughout our society. It's fun.
Now,
it's really new, but people keep coming to us with these projects and expecting so many things from us, and we've hopefully provided a lot of what they expect, even though we only formed over the summer.
Yeah, you went from like the idea to getting it out there and publicized extremely quickly. And I was very impressed with how efficiently and professionally you guys managed that. So, kudos.
Thanks. It was a lot of work.
Perhaps as an outsider, I'm somewhat naive, but is it difficult in these communities to get the voice of women heard?
I would say a little bit. I mean, if you look at the makeup, the composition of a lot of groups, especially smaller local groups, you see a definite lacking of women, and not just in like membership, but especially in leadership. Or when you talk about conferences, a lot of them struggle to have more female speakers.
I think with a lot of it, the movement before, Richard Dawkins and company ended up getting people really enthused about atheism and, by proxy, skepticism. Before that, like, you look at the leaders of the movement, I mean, you've got people like Tom Flynn and the now late Paul Kurtz, and there were a lot of really great people, but most of them were old white dudes. And so whenever these people these new people who got invigorated by this movement started creating their own conferences, like Skepticon. Their options were kind of limited. Like for Skepticon 2, I think Rebecca was the only woman there.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
And she refused to come back unless there was more women next time.
And Skepticon completely came through on that. Like, now there's tons of women speakers, and they've done a really good job of getting grants out there to help women get to Skepticon if they're traveling. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, we didn't start this problem. It was here before we got here. It's mostly just, this is a problem that exists throughout most of society, and we have the capability of solving it in our little niche. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does.
Also, with the women at conferences not having enough speakers who are women, Secular Woman we try to fix that partly by we created an all-female speakers bureau on our website. Mm-hmm. And any of our members can submit themselves if they have an area of expertise that they're willing to talk about. We've got quite a few really awesome people on it right now.
Awesome. I did not know. Thank you.
Yep. And it's also one of those things where a lot of the issues that skepticism deals with do directly affect women. For example, we mentioned Todd Aiken earlier.
Yes.
The belief in magic vaginas and using that as a way to ban women's reproductive rights, that directly affects women. And that's something where science and education and skepticism directly affects them, and we should be, like, I can't tell you how many religious women I've met who like hear about the Todd Aiken thing and are like, that's completely stupid. That's not how anatomy works. Like, that right there is an opportunity to talk to them about skepticism. Make sure you knock on their door on a Saturday morning.
Which is why McCaskill, who's running against him, I think might actually have a shot. Because I think before that she was taking a beating.
Yeah, she was.
It's not that exciting.
Creative writing was always a fun class.
Yeah, that was what my undergrad major was in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And I'm back.
The host is back.
Okay, now back to the topic at hand.
Right.
Which was what? Todd Aiken's an idiot?
Todd Aiken is an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, like, at least liberals and conservatives can kind of agree on. So, there's
common ground. That's how you start a conversation.
Party's disowning of Todd Aiken. I think we can definitely all agree that he's an idiot.
Yes. It is comments like that I think, we can ridicule.
I have to say, though, I don't think it's entirely fair to say that that the Republican Party, completely disavows him, because he's just saying what all the other Republicans are doing out loud. I mean,
That's
if you look
true.
at voting records and lesser-known political figures, but still important ones, they've been saying the exact same thing. This is not a new thing.
But at least they know it's not okay. They might still think it, but they know it's not okay.
But even
it does seem that the Republican Party keeps. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, even the VP candidate, Paul Ryan, has said the exact same thing. Only he said forcible rape instead of legitimate rape.
Right. I was just going to say that it does seem that the Republican Party keeps ousting any more moderate contender in favor of these extremists.
Part
So
of that, too,
yeah,
is the
there absolutely
primaries.
has to be these people. Yeah, well, yeah.
Which in some ways is good because then they'll start losing a lot more
You can
general
hope.
elections. But
You would hope. I don't know. I'm still kind of jury's out on that. We'll see.
So
we were talking earlier about pseudoscience and atheism, skepticism, and women's issues. If you want to see the dumbest, most outrageous pseudoscience available, go to any event by an anti-choice group. They don't know what they're talking about. If you have even a basic level understanding of biology, you can stump every one of them. I've done it before. It's a good way to spend a day.
yeah, the Bears for Life just put up their Graveyard of the Innocents the other day, which you'd think by now they could afford something other than popsicle sticks. But I don't know this year if they managed to have all of their signs make at least logical sense, even if the facts behind them are wrong. But like in the past, they'd put up signs and you're just like, I'm not even sure what the argument you're making is here. It's that unclear.
Well, you have one of the largest groups that travels from campus to campus putting up those big dead fetus signs, Genocide Awareness Project. They can't even get their name right. They think abortion is genocide. And every time someone goes, you guys know what genocide means, right? Like you have to target a specific group of people. Abortion
Killing
doesn't
everyone
do that.
is not genocide.
No. But they've gotten that so much that they have that like on the front page of their website or something now. It's brilliant. They're a lot of fun.
I love Jeff's random size.
It's what I'm good at. Also, the Cardinals are losing 7-0 in case any baseball fans are watching instead of the game.
Way to go.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you were talking about baseball until you said it. So
Sport ball game.
I'll be honest, I'm a little bit anti-Cardinals after living there.
They're kind of annoying me too. I didn't realize I had that many friends from high school still. Anyways, back on topic. Women, leadership, skepticism. Steven, where are we at?
Well, I guess that leadership would be a good place to start. We actually have had I think 2 women on the Springfield Freethinkers board of directors. Is that kind of right?
I don't know. I've never paid the fees to actually be able to vote.
But it is one of those things where even though the Springfield Freethinkers has a decent proportion of women to men, it still is kind of difficult to get women interested in becoming a leader and stepping up, like more so than it has been. Like whenever I was the president, I would ask people who seemed like they had some chops to go ahead and run, and I did have a lot of trouble getting women to run. And I don't know, like, Brandi, do you have any insight into why it might be more, I don't know, unwelcoming for a woman to try to be on the board of directors?
And do you think that comes from a religious background where they're supposed to be submissive to men?
Okay, so there's this thing in society that women encounter a lot. It's most women don't feel like they're qualified to speak or to lead. They don't feel like they're experts, even if they've been doing something for a long time. They know more about a topic than anyone around them. It's just a really hard thing that women have ingrained in them, and I'm not sure exactly where it comes from. But there it is. I mean, I know lots of men in my group who are very eager to, for example, speak at our Tallahassee Atheist Sunday meetings. And I'm the only woman who's on the list, and even then I had a hard time finding topics that I felt comfortable speaking about, even though I have plenty of experience in lots of things. But I still feel like I don't know enough.
That kind of that phenomenon reminds me of this logic puzzle, where you present someone with, I'm going to butcher it, by the way, so just heads up. But you basically, tell you're trying to get the person to guess who the person is, and you're telling them the doctor, has treated this patient. The patient's father is somewhere so and so. Where is the patient's mother? And the trick is that the patient's mother is the doctor. But because people always assume that doctors automatically mean men, it tricks people into missing the answer to the puzzle. And I find that I have to whenever I mention a doctor as a hypothetical, I try to say her just to help combat that a little bit. But I wonder if that might be connected, that we just have this expectation of professionals being men, that we still have that glass ceiling in our language even.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a systemic cultural thing, because we're still in sort of a patriarchal mindset for most of the culture, and it's really even hard just to get people away from using he as a default pronoun when they don't know who it is. Well, it's hard just to get them to not use you in an essay, but there's so many little things that go towards just having these sort of ingrained ideological ideas of what is a man's role in a society and what is a woman's role. And it's not just religion. Religion is part of it. But if you go to Althusser, he has these ideas of these ideological state apparatuses. So it's religion's one of them, education's one of them, the family itself is one of them. So it's probably going to slowly dissipate it, particularly if you look at the academia, where basically everything but the sciences is now predominantly women by 1 or 2%, especially in the humanities. I think it's 54% to whatever the obvious math equation of that is. You can tell that I'm an English major. But a lot of the academic balances have been achieved to be more equitable between women and men, but not society as a whole.
I wonder if that's something you could get around, by leading in when you're asking somebody to step up to a leadership position with why you think they're qualified. You did a great job on X, Y, and Z, and I'd like to see you do more for the group. I wonder if that would be able to kind of short-circuit that second guessing.
Jeff, I do want to say I used he as the default in my book, but I made it clear in the preface that I was using he because it's easier than he, she the whole time.
Yeah, a lot of times what I've seen with academics is they'll either use she for the most part just because it's been for so long been he or she, or they'll just keep flipping back and forth between them. Right. There's a Foucault essay where it's he and she, every other time it's switched, and it actually gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's easier just to use one.
Yeah, it's easier to use one a lot of times, but people kind of put she a lot just because it's been so much the other way. And if you use she instead of he, it's not as oppressive because men have power in the society, whereas the women don't. So if you're using she, it's not conveying a sense of power over other people as much, so it's less contentious.
I just use they.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with they.
I like
it's
they.
Technically, grammatically wrong.
Well, yeah, technically, but realistically, you can totally use they. People know what you're talking about. I mean,
but with an example, and you're talking about.
Generally speaking, what you'd want to do is talk in plurals so that they would be correct.
Okay.
Because if it's a specific person, you should know what gender they are.
That's a good
What
point.
if they don't like to
Maybe.
be gendered?
Then you use it, I think. Or
a lot of people don't like that.
them.
Yeah, there's actually some gender-free pronouns like Z and Zer. They never quite stuck with me. I've tried using them briefly when I was dating people who were transsexual, but it doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
Time out.
It's
also
Z and Zer? I've never heard of these. What is this?
You need to spend more time
to
on the
make
internet.
gender-neutral pronouns.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem of English. Other languages tend to have gender-neutral pronouns, but English not so much.
Well, even the ones that do, they tend to not. They still tend to be pretty sexual. German still has a lot of article usage that's very gendered. And French is pretty bad too.
I've just been sticking with they, and I've gotten requests from people who I know who prefer they, so.
Yeah. I just never liked When giving examples, I never like to say they, just because someone's always bound to ask, who is they? Who says that? They say that.
Oh, you mean like when you say, they say that
Yeah.
eating, 12 cheeseburgers a day was good for you, or whatever.
Yeah.
Random crappy science factoid you hear.
I
Right.
could get behind that they, though.
Or one cheeseburger
Cheeseburgers are
diluted
good.
with 12 times in water. Same effect.
Yeah, I've actually had to correct doctors on the water myth. That's just absurd. But, yeah.
Wait, what's the water myth?
The water myth, without going into too much detail, basically the myth that you have to drink 8 glasses of water a day stems from a misunderstanding from a 1950s Time magazine article, where the basic gist that the scientist was trying to convey is that with what you drink and with what you eat, you end up consuming 8 glasses of water a day, because
Well, I
there's
don't know
water
about
in the
you.
food you eat.
But I get all my health advice from 1950s Time magazine articles.
Yeah.
Nah,
Mad-
I like to
Mad
go with
Men.
1850s.
Mad Men's right on with the smoking. It's good for you.
And it makes you look cool.
Well, that wardrobe is definitely good for you.
Yeah. I can
Yeah,
agree
if
with
you have
that.
lung problems, just get some leeches on them.
I don't think that's 1850s, but okay.
Look, who has the minor in
whatevs.
history? I will make things up if I so choose.
Okay, Barton.
Wow. I
No,
got
he
nothing
takes
to
them
say.
completely out of context. He tries to present a reasonable argument and fails. I'm just making up the facts completely.
Okay, Romney.
The Martian said it was okay.
Okay.
Don't make me get
All
my
right. Well,
binder.
while we're on the
Just leave your
general
screwdriver alone.
subject that we started with, Brandi, have you had any backlash from secular women, like from people who opposed its existence?
Oh yeah. We have some. I mean, not as bad as I thought it was going to be honest. But there's always some. We actually have a section on our website that's not only praise for us, but unkind comments. One example is, I think on the second day we were public, someone had made a failed donation, so they went through the process and then canceled it on PayPal to us for like $2,000 or some outrageous amount, and they made it in the name of skanky cunt whores at go fuck yourself at yahoo.com. Yahoo.com too. Classy, right? And they lived at the White House, so maybe President Obama really doesn't like our organization. I don't know. But yeah,
See, that's why
that
he
was
keeps
one of them.
giving women really tough jobs.
Yeah,
It's because he doesn't like them, but he wants them to be
you got
stressed.
it wrong.
Yeah.
It's we got an incomplete abandoned
Oh,
PayPal
there, he's
for
reading it.
4,000 donation from skanky cunt whores at fuckyou at AOL.com.
AOL,
who lives at
even
the White
better.
House.
My
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
I just want to know how they got an AOL. That AOL still exists.
Yeah, I don't know.
They keep trying.
Behind the times. Not only
Yeah.
do they think women should, like, I don't know, be in the kitchen or something and barefoot and pregnant, but they also use
but they're conservative
AOL.
on the internet.
Oh, that's terrible.
I bet they even use Ask Jeeves to search things.
So,
Bing,
how do
maybe.
you think that we as group organizers should deal with stuff like that? Like, obviously, when it's just someone random person on the internet, like, there's not much you can do aside from ban them and report them to the FBI if it's a actual threat. But what can we do to make sure that the people in our groups know that this is unacceptable behavior? I mean, I hate to drudge up dirty laundry, but I remember there was a forum post on my old group's page, and where one of the members was making a rape joke about Rebecca Watson. And
Classy.
yeah, like that's exactly the sort of thing that you really need to stop. Like, you just can't let that stuff go on. And I mean, it's one thing for us to just say, "Hey, don't do this," but it just feels like forced if like there isn't an example you can point to right away. You know, like you can't like just preemptively say, "Hey, guys, don't do anything bad on the internet." You know.
Right.
But
So
maybe we should. Maybe we should get over that.
my
And just
idea
say,
kind of is, if it's someone who's just commenting anonymously, like making a drive-by comment, or maybe not anonymously, but who doesn't really want to be involved or is not involved in your specific group, I'm a big fan of taking their stupidity and putting it out there for everyone to see. Just ruthlessly making fun of them. Because I think that's the best social deterrent we have, is if you feel like an idiot for saying or doing something, you're not going to do it again. If you feel like a jackass, you're not going to do it again. But if it's someone involved in your group and they say something that's not so good, I don't know. In the past, my groups have had flame wars, if you will, on Facebook pages and stuff, because people have to come in and be moderately idiotic about things that are really not that difficult, like codes of conduct at events.
yeah.
Not hard, but apparently hard for some people. Generally speaking, the ones who came in and expressed not very nuanced complaints about it, they were challenged when they made those statements and eventually didn't relent and say, okay, I was wrong, but they shut up. They probably know they were wrong. They just don't want to admit it because people don't like admitting they're wrong. But if it's something serious, I see no problem with banning people. I have no problem with banning people if they're going to come in and they're going to, you know, disrespect the people in the group and disobey the rules, then you don't deserve to be in the group.
I found that a lot of times the biggest resistance I had was not coming up with reasonable rules, but with convincing free thinkers that rules of any kind are a good idea. Because you may have noticed that our movement tends to be full of independent thinkers who, for better or worse, tend to forge their own path. Sometimes this is a good thing. We get a lot of really great ideas. But sometimes you just end up with people who cannot adhere to social norms at all. And yeah, just like it took me a long time to, you know, debate with people about instituting forum rules. After a while, I just said, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care anymore. I'm just instituting these, and you're going to deal with it. And that actually ended up working. That actually worked out pretty well. From what I understand, the serious problems of people not wanting to come back to the group because of the two problem members, they kind of went away. So that was awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not a page organizer or an organizer of any kind, but on my own private Facebook page, I have lots of, I guess you'd say, friends. And you know, if they do cross certain lines, I will delete the comment and then let them know why I deleted the comment. You know, you crossed the line there, you made an inappropriate joke, or you were offensive in some way. And if they persist, then I'll just remove them completely. I have no problem banning in that way. It is like, it's my page, so if it is your group, I see no problem with that. There are certain codes of conduct.
I usually, if like someone's on my Facebook page and they're posting something kind of horrible, what I usually do is I call them out on it, and I say, hey, look, you might not want to use retarded as an insult, because it doesn't necessarily help anybody, and it does hurt people. So, you know, knock that off. And I found that when I do that, I tend to usually get people who just hadn't thought about it before. And they,
Do you do it privately or in public?
I call them out on it in public, and then they've come to me privately and said, oh, I really didn't mean to offend you. Sorry about that. Which works out fine. I mean, I've been guilty of using retarded as an insult as well. And at the time I was dating a girl with Asperger's, and she called me out on it. And I haven't really done it since, because once you realize that you're hurting someone with it, there's not really a strong incentive to keep doing it, you know?
Right.
I think it's also, too, part of just kind of couching it in language where you're also explaining why it's wrong, and it's not so much that you want to just call them out and make them a bad example, like you're a bad person, but also so that they don't do it again and hurt someone else with that language, and kind of pointing out to them like, this is offensive to these people, and you probably don't want to be offensive to them or hurt them, so you probably shouldn't do this anymore, versus going, you're a bad person, you should feel bad.
Okay, so this gets into another ongoing discussion that happens anytime trolling happens, which is, do you or do you not feed the trolls? And
you feed them with acid, and then they die.
I mean, that's kind of the ongoing
classic
thing.
Classic D&D rules.
People always say, don't feed the trolls, but you can't just ignore something. Some things you have to drag into the public square and beat mercilessly. So, any thoughts on that dynamic?
Well, for me, it's, use the trolls as a learning example for everyone else. Don't let them control your debate or what you're talking about. Look at what they're saying and go, no, here's the broader context, here's the broader debate that we should be having. Let's turn this into an actual useful discussion rather than saying, oh, well, now we have to make, fun of this person, which I think that was kind of the objection I had with one of PZ's recent comments on the Amanda Todd issue is there is actually a critical debate to be had there that he kind of accidentally mocked because he was responding with men's rights advocate. Had he kind of not let the men's rights advocate control the debate, they could have also had that other useful, critical discussion over media's missing white woman syndrome, which didn't happen because we had the whole men's rights advocate controlling the debate.
Yeah, and I feel a little bit of sympathy on that because the Amazing Atheist tends to set himself up as somebody who's only out there to piss people off and not really to contribute to the conversation. So if he was trying to make a point about the missing white woman syndrome, he did it terribly.
Exactly, he
so
did.
Clumsily that you can't tell.
And we don't have to let him control the debate.
I just want to say that even when I was first coming to atheism, I saw him on YouTube. I never took him seriously.
I have no idea who the hell he actually is. It's the first time I actually heard of him.
Yeah.
He's just some jackass with a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So there you go. You're caught up.
That's pretty much it, yeah. He's really, I wouldn't want him to be my neighbor. He's just that annoying.
Yeah, so with the trolls thing, don't feed the trolls, I don't subscribe to the philosophy that online interactions are trivial and that trolls are just trying to get attention. If you feel the need to say the things that trolls say, there's probably something behind it in your opinions, if you want to come in and call all the women of a comment thread cunts, then there's probably something wrong with you. There's probably something that you need to address personally.
Well, what can you possibly do about that online?
What can you do about that? I mean, if it's just, a drive-by calling women cunts,
A drive-by cunting?
Yes, a drive-by cunting. You can just, I tend to mock it. You can either mock it or ignore it at that point, but if it's a troll who's continuing to a post and responding to comments, then you can try to talk to them, but it's not really to convince them. It's more for the benefit of whoever might be reading, because you don't know who's reading these comments online. Could be anyone.
Right.
And there might be somebody who is going to commit a drive-by cunting that now won't.
I kind of feel bad laughing at that, but at the same time, it's that comedy K sound. That hard K is awesome for jokes. So, I'm going to laugh. Sorry.
Humor. It does sometimes educate.
It's true.
Well, we are going to go ahead and wrap it up pretty soon. Are there any aspects of this subject that you guys would like to see addressed, such as the fact that I just used guys to refer to a group of people without
you jerk.
thinking about it. I'm trying to get out of that habit, but I still do it.
You've been bad and should feel bad because of it.
Yes.
There's just not a good alternative. I use y'all sometimes, but then I'm like, oh, people will think I'm from the South, but I'm not really from the South. I'm from Florida.
No.
It's different, I swear.
No, I'm living in Texas.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Don't use y'all. No.
Yeah.
I do it.
And definitely don't use you all y'all as one of my teachers did. That's just redundant.
I'm a big fan of folks. I think that one works fine.
I can't do that one either.
You people there.
Oh, what do you mean by you people?
Hello,
Anybody who I'm
carbon-based
trying to
life
address.
forms.
Yeah.
There you go. Use hers just every time. Carbonites.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Hey, stop defaming the selenium-based people.
All right. Well, is there anything else you folks would like to see addressed?
I'd like to see you do a dance.
It's not going to happen.
I'm thinking a jig.
Yeah,
Jig?
definitely a jig.
Possibly going to happen. Maybe. No, it's still not going to happen.
I think it would really help the movement out if you did a jig.
Wait, is that
If
Luigi
you mean movement, literally.
behind you?
Yes. Luigi, Mario, and Yoshi.
Nice.
It's kind of blurry, but you know.
I think you should do a stop motion short film with those
Yeah.
three.
Entertain us, Steven.
I could support that.
Yeah, see, it's 3 against 1. Democracy, Steven.
Well,
that's how you build a better movement.
I'm not sure that would be relevant to this podcast. Just slightly. I mean, we're already veering off relevancy.
Nothing shall ever stay relevant in a podcast. Van Booven's law.
I think you just made that up.
It's the rules that I just made up. Duh. That's how rules are made.
You have people behind you.
Yes, this is my wife, Nola.
Hello.
She's playing with Luigi and Mario. You guys are you people.
See? At least someone's helping.
Well, anyways, we're coming up on 50 minutes, so let's go ahead and wrap up. So yeah, everybody go ahead and say your names and plug your groups one more time as we're heading out.
Okay, I guess I'll start. I'm Brandi Braschler. I'm the VP of Programs at Secular Woman and a bunch of other things. So.
It's very specific.
Hey, there's a lot of groups. We'd be here a while.
I believe you. I guess I should go. I am Joshua McGraw, and I am the author of Why I Reject the Faith of My Father, available on Amazon. I guess that's the easiest way to do it, but I don't have a group. You all can be my group.
I'm Jeff Van Booven. Okay, good. I've got my hand waving in the shot now. I have a YouTube channel, Guys from the Future, which I do with my friend Thaddeus. And I also have a blog, onehourparkingshow.com. I don't actually have groups either. So Steven has been pretty bad at selecting people for this topic.
Well, he did put up an advert on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I'm Stephen Olsen, and thank you all for joining me. And until next time, this is Some Assembly Required. Everybody go to events.skepchick.org and check out what we're doing with the Skepchick events team. Thanks for listening. See you again next week.
Fist bump.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Jeff likes to wave, I've noticed.
It's because I'm good at it.
It's actually not a bad habit to get into with these, just so you can kind of raise your hand and chime in, just because it can be a little difficult to talk over each other sometimes.
No, I'm a teacher. I'm pretty good at yelling over people.
I know. Brandy's just really strident.
I'm good at talking over people.
In my fake history book, I'm talking about how James Madison was an atheist, and one of the things I talk about is how he was considered strident and shrill, and then I